Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the read aloud video for the article, What Climate Change Means for New Mexico. This is the article that one of two articles that you will be using for your final exam project. Again, this article is titled, What Climate Change Means for New Mexico. I'm providing this for anyone that benefits from having it read aloud. I'm going to start over here on the left, what is in white. New Mexico's climate is changing. Most of the state has warmed at least 1 degree Fahrenheit in the last century. Throughout the southwestern United States, heat waves are becoming more common, and snow is melting earlier in spring. In the coming decades, our changing climate is likely to decrease the flow of water in the Colorado, Rio Grande, and other rivers, threaten the health of livestock, increase the frequency and intensity of wildfires, and convert some rangelands to desert. Our climate is changing because the Earth is warming. People have increased the amount of carbon dioxide in the air by 40% since the late 1700s. Other heat-trapping greenhouse gases are also increasing. These gases have warmed the surface and lower atmosphere of our planet about 1 degree during the last 50 years. Evaporation increases as the atmosphere warms, which increases humidity, average rainfall, and the frequency of heavy rainstorms in many places, but contributes to drought in others. Greenhouse gases are also changing the world's ocean and ice cover. Carbon dioxide reacts with water to form carbonic acid, so the oceans are becoming more acidic. The surface of the ocean has warmed 1 degree during the last 80 years. Warming is causing snow to melt earlier in spring. We have a map here. It says rising temperatures in the last century. The last decade was the warmest on record in the Southwest. Source EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, climate change indicators in the United States. Okay, going to the blue section that is on the right. And for the graphic organizer, when it says choose the blue headings, it's talking about these headings: snowpack, water availability. On the next page, there's several more. Okay, snowpack. As the climate warms, less precipitation falls as snow, and more snow melts during the winter. That decreases snowpack, the amount of snow that accumulates over the winter. Since the 1950s, the snowpack has been decreasing in New Mexico, as well as in Colorado, Utah, and Wyoming, which matters because the headwaters of the Rio Grande, San Juan, Colorado, and Navajo rivers are in those states. Diminishing snowpack in northern New Mexico will shorten the season for skiing and other forms of winter tourism and recreation. The tree line may shift as subalpine fir and other high-altitude trees become able to grow at higher elevations. A higher tree line would decrease the extent of alpine tundra ecosystems, which could threaten some species. So basically, some subalpine fir and other high-altitude trees will grow only at higher elevations, and so it's messing up the ecosystems. Some will become smaller, some will become larger. In this picture, ski areas like Taos Ski Valley depend on seasonal snowpack, which has declined at all long-term monitoring sites in the Sangre de Cristo Range. Water availability. The changing climate is likely to increase the need for water, but reduce the supply. Warmer temperatures increase the rate at which water evaporates or transpires into the air from soils, plants, and surface waters. Irrigated farmland would thus need more water, but less water is likely to be available, because precipitation is unlikely to increase enough to make up for the additional water lost to evaporation. Annual rainfall is more likely to decrease than increase, so soils are likely to be drier, and periods without rain are likely to become longer, making droughts more severe. The decline in snowpack could further limit the supply of water for some purposes. Mountain snowpacks are natural reservoirs. They collect the snow that falls during winter and release the water when the snow melts during spring and summer. Over the past 50 years, snowpack has been melting earlier in the year. See map on back page. Dams capture most meltwater and retain it for use later in the year. But upstream of these reservoirs, less water is available during droughts for ecosystems, fish, water-based recreation, and landowners who draw water directly from a flowing river. Okay, next page. Okay, next page. Here we have trends in April snowpack in New Mexico and Colorado from 1955 to 2013. The snowpack has declined at most monitoring sites in both states. Look at the key to be able to understand the map. Agriculture. This could be another possible blue heading that you could use on your graphic organizer. Agriculture, wildfires and changing landscapes, pests, extreme heat, and tribal communities. There's 7 headings that you can use. You're going to pick 3 of these. Agriculture. Increasing droughts and higher temperatures are likely to interfere with New Mexico's farms and cattle ranches. Hot weather can threaten cows' health and cause them to eat less, grow more slowly, and produce less milk. Livestock operations could also be impaired by fire and changes in the landscape from grasslands to woody shrubs, more typical of a desert. Reduced water availability would create challenges for ranchers as well as farmers who irrigate fruits, vegetables, pecans, and other tree nuts. Wildfires and changing landscapes. Higher temperatures and drought are likely to increase the severity, frequency, and extent of wildfires, which could harm property, livelihoods, which means jobs, and human health. On average, more than 2% of the land in New Mexico has burned per decade since 1984. Wildfires smoke can reduce air quality and increase medical visits for chest pains, respiratory problems, and heart problems. The combination of more fires and drier conditions may expand deserts and otherwise change parts of New Mexico's landscape. Many plants and animals living in arid lands are already near the limits of what they can tolerate. A warmer and drier climate would generally extend the Chihuahuan Desert to higher elevations and expand its geographic range. In some cases, native vegetation may persist and delay or prevent expansion of the desert. In other cases, fires or livestock grazing may accelerate the conversion of grassland to desert in response to the changing climate. For similar reasons, some forests may change to desert or grassland. This picture in 2012, New Mexico experienced the largest wildfire in the state's recorded history, the Whitewater Baldy Complex Fire. Next heading, pests. Warmer, drier conditions make forests more susceptible to pests. Drought reduces the ability of trees to mount a defense against attacks from pests such as bark beetles, which have infested 200,000 acres in New Mexico. Temperature controls the life cycle and winter mortality, or death rates, of many pests. With higher winter temperatures, some pests can persist year-round, and new pests and diseases may become established. Extreme heat. Hot days can be unhealthy, even dangerous. Certain people are especially vulnerable, including children, the elderly, the sick, and the poor. High air temperatures can cause heat stroke and dehydration and affect people's cardiovascular, respiratory, and nervous systems. Higher temperatures are amplified in urban settings where paved and other surfaces tend to store heat. Warmer air can also increase the formation of ground level ozone, a key component of smog. Construction crews may have to increasingly operate on altered time schedules to avoid the heat of the day. Sometimes when they're working on roads, they are doing it at night so that the workers aren't out in the middle of the day. Okay, tribal communities. Climate change threatens natural resources and public health of tribal communities. Rising temperatures and increasing drought are likely to decrease the availability of certain fish, game, which means like animals that they hunt, and wild plants on which the Navajo and other tribes have relied for generations. Water may be less available for domestic consumption, especially for those who are not served by either municipal systems or reliable wells. So there are some people, particularly on tribal lands, Pueblos, Navajos, that do not have running water inside. And so they don't have reliable wells. They're not provided water from the city. So there's some that have to buy bottled water for all of their water needs, which includes about 30% of the people on the Navajo Nation who must haul water to meet daily needs. Recurring drought and rising temperatures may also degrade the land itself. On the Arizona portion of the Navajo Nation, for example, the Great Falls dune field has advanced almost a mile in the last 60 years, threatening roads, homes, and grazing areas. Extreme heat may also create health problems for those without electricity, including about 40% of the people on the Navajo reservations. So when they talk about the dunes, we're talking about sand dunes. There's different types of sand dunes. This one is the Great Falls dune field. And so it has grown over a mile in the last 60 years. And then there are also tribal communities that don't have electricity, including about 40% of the people on the Navajo reservation. All right, so that is the article, What Climate Change Means for New Mexico, that you will be using on your final exam project. Thank you.